Alright, I'm going to reshoot a video I did earlier because I just did it with my cell phone and the volume was not that good on it. So let's see here. Got a loose dial light. I noticed some hum here. The most interesting symptom is this here. See, you turn on the bass control and it just like washes out any radio station that's playing. Change the balance control and changes the sound of that noise. Anyway, that noise is always present. And the lattice on the front of this was messing up, so I just started taking it off.
That's St. Joseph's problem, that's not my problem.
Alright, looks to me like someone's been in here before and maybe did a little bit of butchering or something. I noticed that this mid-range which is connected parallel with this woofer, is connected in parallel with this woofer also. So, and you can see it's been done by tape, and somewhere along the line that stuck a wire on there and cut it off or something. So I'm going to undo some of this stuff and see what's going on. I think one thing wrong is the terminal strips are loose on the speakers. And that will cause distortion, but nothing like what we have. That was just kind of, that piece of wire just kind of dangled on there. Okay, what I did is just took my pocket knife and cut off all that tape, and you can see what's wrong is the terminal strip is broke off the speaker. That's not too hard to fix. Here's another case of where someone tried to fix something and made a headache for it. The person that tried to fix it right is what I'm trying to say. I'm undoing the stereo, the speaker, and I need to get the soldering equipment. I left that in the house when I went to I brought that in to do some other project and left it in there. So I'll come back some other time, and what I'm going to do right there is put a screw in there. I'm pretty sure I got one that'll fit. I've saved some real short screws from, say, like modern TVs and radios and stuff that really weren't worth saving. Here we have part 2 of the taped wire that was bridged across this console. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen when I undo this one. Hopefully we'll have better luck this time. I believe, actually I might be able to just unplug the wires and then work with them. Because the rivet that holds the terminal strip on the speaker is still there on this side. And I just used the supplied stapled down twist tie to hold my trouble light in place. It's a fluorescent trouble light that my dad gave to me because he didn't like it. But it suits me just fine. Like all trouble lights, it's got an outlet on it too. So that can be handy when you're working on stuff like this and need to plug it in. Well, I got that piece of white cord, power cord, out from between the two, and I don't know why I start belching and stuff every time I try to fire up the camera tonight, but oh well. I'm just going to let it fly. And you see what happened here, and the same thing happened here. So, oh well. I don't know if you can see down in there too well, but I see that big filter cap right there. It probably looks about like an 1.5 inches wide, and I guess maybe 3 inches long or 4 inches long. That's probably suspect number 1. And it's similar to these caps, so that's almost always a given that those are bad. And I tell you, in some respects, I was thinking that you would expect better from RCA back in the day. This is a stereo hookup lead that goes over to the amplifier. And right now I got the line in the way. I'll have to get that out. Anyway, it goes in right there, and the record player's got the very same thing on it, and it plugs in, I think, around about right there, along with the, I believe it's the power wires to the phonograph. Alright, I made a capacitor arrangement to replace this big filter cap in this RCA chassis. I had to do a little configuring, I guess you could say, to make the 1500 microfarad section. And what I did was I put a 470 right there and a 47 right there, so because that's as close as I could get with the capacitors I had on stock. And these 3 capacitors right here are 1000 microfarad at 50 volts, and I believe this one right here is a 1000 at 25 volts. So that's fine, because these 3 are overkill, and this one's overkill also. So that should be perfect, hopefully. Now to get to soldering up these leads a little bit, and we'll gradually start clipping this capacitor out. I'll tell you, it's cold today. So I might have to take more breaks, who knows. Alright, I'm out here tinkering around with one of the speakers from the RCA console, and one of the terminal strips broke off on the woofers, both woofers actually. And what I'm going to do is just use some screws, machine screws, to put it back on instead of a rivet. And I may be able to show you how I'm doing this, but I don't know for sure. What I did to make things easier was I soldered a little bit of wire onto each lead going to the speaker, because that would have just been torture trying to get that back on there, and plus it would have shortened the leads that were going to the speaker, so that may have caused a problem too. And so what I'll do is I'll bolt that on right there and pull the leads through right here and solder them down. I'll be right back. Okay, I've now finagled the leads into place, and what I've done here is, I don't know if you can see below that terminal strip or not, but I put another bolt in there, a nut on that bolt. So basically I put two nuts on that bolt. The first one just to hold the bolt in, is what I'm trying to say. The next thing I'm going to do is solder them up a little bit, and the reason I've got this here is I tend to get a little shaky or something sometimes with that solder gun or whatever tool I'm using, and I just didn't want to damage the speaker with it. So that's all. That's the only reason that's there. Alright, here I am a few minutes later, and I'm going to trim the excess off right here. Excess lead, just like so. And I don't know if you can see that too well. I was looking at what I was doing instead of looking at the camera, so who knows what I got. One thing I did notice that I did by accident, you see this, you may be able to see this lead right here. It's too long, and it can touch the basket, which is not a good thing, because that can cause a short if you do both of them, at least. Well, I brought this amplifier out for a test and cap replacement. And I chronicle the cap replacement a little bit on my iPod Touch. Eventually I think I'll splice these together.
Oh man, $15,999.
Notice when I turn the volume up, there's no distortion.
Got a 2017 Ford
Turn the bass up.
Yeah, the 17s are on the line. Got a price of $2,756 here at Midstate.
The only distortion I hear is the speakers bouncing around on top of this thing.
0% financing going on select models. Midstate. And we're ready to throw a big John deal at you like you.
I don't have an antenna hooked up, otherwise this thing would be hot as can be.
Is there a story that sticks out or sticks with you as you're seeing what's happening now?
Yes, there is. I was speaking to a humanitarian worker who's responding in some of these districts, frontline districts that have just been retaken by Syrian government forces and their allies. He found this little boy who had survived through the offensive, and he started following him around, and he was about maybe 10 years old, and he turned out to be...
courage to do it. I pray a lot about my children and their friends. I know that you do too, and I thank God that over the years He's given our friends young men and young women who had the same convictions they did, who helped them do the right thing.
But the only reason for that crazy distortion is you could actually see it. The speakers were jumping around on top of this thing.
Others. Isn't that interesting?
Bass control down.
Right, even when it's at a great cost, are the people who are remembered.
Bass control up.
It's easy to float along with the crowd, to be just kind of captured within the group. When you stand up and do right, people will take notice. Those are the people who are remembered. Young person, if you want to be a person who makes a mark for God, you're going to have to step out and be alone sometimes. But you'll be alone because God is with you. Young man entered State University. During the first few weeks of class, a godless professor was going to break him down. And many, I have to tell you that I know this for a fact now, many godless professors on the campuses of state universities have as one of their subliminal goals to break down the faith of young people, to ridicule them and break them down. This guy was in class, and during the first few weeks, the professor asked if any of the students considered themselves to be Christians. It was obvious that he was trying to embarrass anyone who dared to raise a hand. And this one young man looked around. He knew there were some other Christians in the group, but he didn't see one other person raise their hand. But he had been reading in the Bible about how Peter had denied the Lord 3 times, and he was so sensitive to that even though nobody else raised their hand, he raised his hand. He lifted it up. Well, this young man was brought up in front of the whole class, and the professor asked him to stand up in front of the class, and he said, "So you're a Christian?" He said, "Yes, I'm a Christian." The professor, in front of the whole class, began to ridicule him with a voice that was dripping in sarcasm.
Anyway, I believe that filter cap change really helped things.
Your station for information and inspiration. 56 WJLS AM, Beckley. I know the scene just as long as it takes for a song to make sad, heavy spirits.
Excuse me, FM antenna is not hooked up, so that's not doing too good right at the moment because of it.
You're starstruck?
Just like meeting a celebrity.
It's one of the
Exactly, you
local stations.
downplay it, you try not to mention it, but you definitely check them out twice and you know, look at them when they walk away. You're like, oh my God, you're the Tooth Fairy.
It's the strangest feeling, been this way for you. There's something the way you...
Now to take a break from filming again and See when we get the amp back where it belongs and put the faceplate back on. Alright, just in case you're wondering how this amp comes out, what you have to do is remove the knobs first and remove the faceplate, and then remove these 4 screws. But these, I'm going to set these in there right quickly. Because I'm putting the stereo back together. Just like so. And then we move over to this side. Now we take off the knobs that I left on when I was putting the amp back in, because I had it plugged in for testing and such. And we get the faceplate. Well, first I got to put this white sheet back. I really should clean it off first really good, but oh well. Or that may go up inside the this, I don't know. No, there's no clips there, so I'll let it be like so. There you have it. Trying to do everything upside down, and for some reason I've been having to do about 2 or 3 takes of this video because I've been trying to do everything backwards too. But anyway, let's turn it on.
And why maybe he needs some proof to fully embrace it. Bill? Life? No, not. I first became aware of it about 15 years or so ago.
There's the balance control.
Came out with Russell Crowe and Meg Ryan. And the whole point of it is her husband had been kidnapped. He was working in South America.
Both sides worked properly.
Before they would begin
both channels, I mean.
They demanded proof of life, which consisted of a photograph of him holding.
There's the bass control. And notice no more roar when that's turned up.
Because we have proof. There are a lot of areas in life where,
and in case you're wondering, I got a busted knob to deal with. That's a channel knob from a TV set.
Vaccinations or remedies from illness, actually population for.
Before that night was over.
Double.
Visiting me, connection.
Stop thinking about you.
Against the box. Back on it, though. Into the paint, Pat.
But he knew he should make the little girl glad. So it.
We want to come to the darkness.
It's cute.
Don't go nuts about what are you going to buy for.
They're talking about more or less the same thing that adults.
Chapter 3 and verse 9. And I'm going to get it.
Real life, and we need.
Everybody will dance and play. Tonight the stars are on display. Come and join your neighbor drink. Gonna celebrate the birth of the heavenly King. Hear the wondrous angel song. Let your voice
David mentioned it.
Okay, wait. Some crossover, but.
There's a distant AM station. It's the middle of the day, so not much is going to come in on this band. Maybe things are starting up.
At equip.org, Hank Hanegraaff will be.
Go up to the local stations. On the low end of the dial, they're local stations, I mean.
Back at history, even with Kowicki and people like that. And Van Buren.
And that's what the stereo is working like right now. The record changer is not working at all. I need to work on that desperately to get it working. Alright, you got the line in working on the stereo, and just want to show y'all something. Show it to you. Yeah. The phone's wanting to be crazy. You can sort of use that song as a diagnostic tool if you got one channel dead.